Hello, Eric the Car Guy viewer. I am Eric the Car Guy, back again with hopefully some more useful information for you. In fact, I know this is useful information because you probably requested this video a lot since I started doing this. You've wanted to know this. And that is, how do I change the brake fluid in my car? It's really kind of a simple, straightforward operation. And it just so happens that I'm doing other service on this and I have all four wheels up off the ground. As an aside, I think my preferred method is to use a pressure bleeder. And that's a device that I used to have when I worked at actually a couple of different shops. And I've got to tell you, having the pressure bleeder, you just hook that thing up to the top of the master cylinder. It sends pressurized brake fluid into the master cylinder itself. And all you got to do is go around all four wheels and crack the bleeders until you see it come out clean. It's just that simple. If you're going to change the brake fluid, make sure you change it with the same type that you have in there. Usually it says on the master cylinder cap, it'll say like .3, .4, what have you. As far as the service interval for this, I usually do this during a major service, somewhere between 30 and 50,000 miles. Take that with a grain of salt. Actually consult with your owner's manual, or better yet, your service manual for the vehicle that you're working on for the specifics on that, and also what type of brake fluid that you have in there. So I believe that's all the disclaimers I got to throw at you before I get started. But now that I've done that, I'm going to go around, remove all four wheels to expose the brakes themselves. All right, I just threw a fender cover down on the Subaru. Some of you may laugh at me for that, but brake fluid eats paint, so you want to try to avoid getting brake fluid on any painted surfaces, especially on the outside. So fender covers is a great idea. This is the master cylinder on this vehicle. I'm going to start by cleaning the outside of it before I actually take the cap off. This way I can see my work and be proud of it, but it's just something I've kind of always done. This is brake cleaner, by the way. I'm not going for museum quality. I'm really just going for, I want to see through the reservoir and see clean brake fluid. Now that I have the top of the master cylinder removed, I'm going to break out my special tool to basically get out the old brake fluid that's in the master cylinder right now. And that is this high-tech turkey baster. I picked it up at the grocery store for very little money, even if you only use it once, because I will tell you they aren't going to last too long, because brake fluid will eat away at this rubber. But even if you just use it once, so what? But these are handy to have around. So I start by taking out what's in the master cylinder, and then I have this extra jug here that I'm just going to put the excess fluid into. I don't need to get out every last drop, just the majority of it. Now I'm going to top off the master with new fluid. Now for some of you, you may want to stop right here. And I'm not going to fault you for that. In fact, I worked at the dealership, and several of my compatriots, this is as far as they went, if they even went this far. It's up to you, but if you want to go the extra mile, let's go the extra mile. But as far as I'm concerned, you could do this, and the brake fluid is quote-unquote changed, because the majority of it is actually here. But now let's go and bleed it out at the wheels. Okay, here's something that is often in debate as far as bleeding procedures. Now, I'm not trying to eliminate air from the system here. I'm just basically cycling the brake fluid through in order to get clean brake fluid through the entire system. The procedure that I follow is left front, right rear, right front, left rear. And I'm going to tell you why I do it that way. This wheel is closest to the master cylinder, at least in the States. Therefore, if I start bleeding at this wheel, I'm going to get the most fluid through first. If I start at the back, I'm going to run all the dirty fluid through the whole system before I get to this point. Basically what I'm trying to say is I have come to a place where I prefer to do it this way. Many people do it just the opposite, and they start furthest from the master cylinder. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing at all wrong with that. If you want to start at the right rear wheel and then do the left front and then do the left rear and right front, go for it. I'm not saying you're wrong in doing that. I'm just doing it this way because I've been doing it this way for a while. I've found it works for me. You can do it whatever way you like. We're just changing the brake fluid. We're not bleeding air out or anything like that, just changing the brake fluid. Okay, we've got clean fluid in the master, so we're gonna be sending clean fluid down into here eventually. This way we don't have to send all that dirty fluid through here. We got the dirty stuff out of the master, we're gonna be sending clean stuff through, and it's not gonna take long to do this. There's a little rubber plug here that you can take out. And on the Subaru, these are 8mm bleed screws. And then I have this. This is my handy bleed bottle. This is just a regular soda bottle. I just drilled a hole in the top of it. This is tubing from an aquarium setup. You can also find this at a lot of times at your big box hardware stores. If you go in the plumbing section, you'll find this tubing. Lastly, I just have a piece of vacuum line that fit the end of the bleeder and also happen to fit over the end of this tubing. Over time, this tubing may get hard and brittle. It may not stay pliable like this. You can buy lots and lots of it. You don't need a whole lot. But I have enough to basically fill into the bottom of this setup here, this bottle. And the reason is that as long as this end here is submerged in fluid, it's not going to be able to draw air back into the system, even if I take my foot off the pedal, because it'll draw back in, but it won't be drawing air, it'll be drawing fluid. And that's the idea, to try to maintain like an integrity of the fluid inside the system. So I just take this. Well, that's awfully loose fitting. I might just go with straight aquarium tubing on this. This bleeder's smaller than what I'm used to. I just took my vacuum line off the end of this. I'm gonna see if this will, the end of it's a little bit hard, I'm just gonna trim it. Having an airtight fit here or something close to it is good. That just slipped right on there without the vacuum line. So for this vehicle, I'm just gonna use straight tubing. And then I'm gonna crack this loose, I'm gonna go inside, I'm gonna pump the pedal a few times until I start to see clear fluid coming out of this tube. Fluid is nice and clear coming out of here into my bottle. I'm just going to go back up now and top off the master cylinder again, because you never want to run the master cylinder dry. Running the master cylinder dry is, well, that's going to be a bad day. So don't run the master cylinder dry. If you can, have a buddy help you do this, and it's going to go a lot quicker. He can pump the pedal while you, or she can pump the pedal while you go around and do your thing at the wheels, and you'll be done lickety split. This is not rocket science. It's not a complicated operation. I get this question a lot too. Eric, I broke the bleeder valve off of my caliper. What do I do? And I still need to bleed the system. That does suck, but you're not without hope. Right down here is the inlet for the brake line. Instead of bleeding here at the bleeder, just leave the broken bleeder in there. Don't try to take it out, drill it, all that kind of stuff. You're just wasting your time. You can also bleed right here. So all you gotta do is knock this nut back here loose, put a bucket or something like that under there so that you can catch the fluid that comes out, and then open and close this the same way you would a bleeder, but just bleed it at the line. And that will save you a lot of trouble. Now I'm going to head back to the right rear. It looks like they switched up on me, and the bleeder back here is a 10mm. It's a slightly larger. Looks like I'm still going to be able to use, my tube here. First I'm going to put the wrench on. And my tube. I'm going to crack it loose. And then start pumping. Don't waste time coming back to close this off. I just hit the pedal, I think it was like 8 or 10 times. And that's it. Once the fluid comes out clear, you've changed the brake fluid. Now let's do the other wheels. Now the right front. Now moving on to the left rear. Top off the master. Since this is our final time topping off the master, be sure to note where the brake fluid was before you got started. If you fill it up over that mark and you go to change, like say the front brake pads, and you push the caliper pistons in, you'll notice that all the brake fluid will run out the top of the master cylinder, down the firewall, and onto the ground. If you try to get it close, well, first of all, I don't recommend that you do that, but if you try to get it close, it'll be a good indication of front brake pad wear, because as the front pads wear, this level will go down. So the lower this level is, the more it could indicate that you have brakes that are worn out. So it's a good idea to try to get it back to that level for a number of reasons, because if the fluid level gets low enough, the brake light on the dash will come on and let you know that your brake fluid is low, and it's probably a good time to check your brakes. If you top it all the way off, what's going to happen is you go to try to, well, your brakes could wear out and you might not be aware of it, other than the grinding noise when you step on the pedal. This has like a little rubber insert in the top, and I'm just going to push it back in like that. As the brake fluid goes lower, it's going to draw this in with it to help clear the void that's up on the top here. Brake fluid and air are the reason why you're doing this, because brake fluid, the more it combines with air, gets hydroscopic. Brake fluid is hydroscopic, which means it absorbs moisture, and as it does so, it becomes somewhat acidic. That's one of the main reasons that you're doing this. But as you can see, I've got some nice clean brake fluid here. And I say my brake fluid has changed. Let's wrap this up. Well, I'm very happy to have been able to fill this age-old request, it seems. It seems like since I started doing Eric the Car Guy, people have been asking me to do a video about changing brake fluid. And I had the opportunity today, so here we are. I hope this information was helpful to you. Bleeding procedure is pretty much up to you. However, I prefer to do left front, right rear, right front, left rear. That's how I prefer to do it, but some people like to do it right rear, left front, left rear, right front. That's how some people like to do it. And you know what? I say go for it, do it whatever way you like. Also, I recommend removing the brake fluid inside the master cylinder reservoir before you get started. And my handy bleeding tool makes it so that it can be a one-man job. And if you're really industrious, make 4 of those and do all 4 wheels at once. This may very well be a 2-person job, and this is why. Some of those bleeder screws, when you knock them loose, will draw in air around the threads when you release the pedal, and that can sometimes be an issue. So if you see like lots of air being trapped in that line, it could be the result of air being drawn in elsewhere, or your fitting down on top of the bleeder screw itself might not be so great. You break a bleeder screw, bleed it at the line. And another thing you might run into, if those little rubber caps are not on when you go to do this, you may find that there's no fluid coming out, and you may have to remove the bleeder screw, clean it all up, reinstall it, because there's like a little hole in the bottom. It'll either rust it up or a bunch of crud will get down in it. That's why it's a good idea to put them rubber things back on. Without doing that, a bunch of stuff can get down in there, it gets all crusted up, and it won't be a bleeder screw anymore. It'll just be like you stuck a nut in there, and you'll have to clean it out, which is kind of a pain to do. But I usually take them out, take them over to the wire wheel, clean out the part that's clogged up with a pick or something like that, and make it so that I can blow compressed air through it and stick it back on the car, and away I go. And even sometimes I'll go through and maybe put like a little dab of grease or silicone paste or something on the hole to keep stuff from getting back down in there again. Hopefully helpful suggestions for you. Anyway, I am Eric the Car Guy. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Google+, and always at EricTheCarGuy.com, where if you have automotive questions, I ask that you go there and either use the search function at the top of the page, or you consult with us on the forum. You can sign up, it's free, and we'll do our best to answer your questions over there. Anyway, Eric the Car Guy here, reminding you to be safe, have fun, and stay dirty. Except for your brake fluid.